This book is about the history of human food, but not just recipes or ingredients. It asks, what were the big, world-changing moments in how we eat? There are lots of food history books out there, some about medieval meals, some just about tomatoes or salt, some about sugar and power, but this one is different. It starts with the very first use of fire and goes all the way to modern food factories. It draws a complete map of how our diet evolved. The author, Philip Fernandez Armisteau, is a famous British historian who taught at Oxford, writes for The New York Times, and hosts BBC shows. He specializes in exploration and colonial history. His Spanish father inspired that interest. He also loves Spanish food way better than British food, he admits. And Spain even gave him an award for his writing on food and geography. Now let's dive into this historian's take on eating. Part 1, The Invention of Cooking. Have you ever eaten an oyster raw? We often grill or steam them, but mostly we just suck them straight from the shell. An oyster expert once said, eating a raw oyster is like tasting the sea, the seaweed, the wind, the very water. Oysters are probably the closest thing to natural food in the Western diet. You might say apples or berries are natural too. But those have been bred and changed for thousands of years. Even wild berries have been affected by humans. Oysters haven't been improved, they taste different depending on where they live, and we eat them alive, which is rare in modern meals. There's also raw beef dishes like Korenukoyer Western steak tartare. The name tartare comes from the Tartars, a Mongol tribe that Europeans thought of as barbarians. But modern tartare is very fancy, minced meat mixed with herbs, onions, capers, olive oil, egg, even vodka. Similarly, Japanese sashimi is all about the chef's skill and beautiful presentation, but early humans didn't eat raw meat with any style. In 1540, a Spanish knight saw Native Americans hunting bison. They cut open the belly, drank the half-digested grass juice from the stomach, they called it the essence. Then sliced off raw meat, chewed a bit and swallowed. They used cleaned guts as containers for blood to drink later. That was real tartare, tough and hard to swallow. So cooking began when we learned to use fire. That was a huge milestone. Every culture has a fire god, Prometheus in Greece, a jaguar in Native American tales. But even before we could start fires, we knew cooked food tasted better. Forest fires would roast beans and animals, and people noticed they were easier to chew and digest. Once fire was under control, cooking became the first chemistry experiment. An ancient Greek recipe for grilled fish, season mackerel, wrap in fig leaves. Bury in hot ashes until the leaves turn black. You can still find similar dishes in Yunnan or Thai restaurants. Like the famous beggar's chicken, cooked directly in fire without pots. People didn't stop there. They invented stone cooking, heat rocks, then put food on them. Then they dug pits, put hot stones inside. That became the first oven. If they hit groundwater, they dropped hot stones into the water and that was boiling. Then came containers, big shells, animal stomachs. Even today we use animal casings for sausages, and a Scottish dish called haggis cooks sheep heart, liver and lungs inside a sheep's stomach. About 10,000 years ago, humans made pottery that could handle fire and hold water. After that, for thousands of years we just improved those tools until the microwave oven. Microwaves don't use fire, they use electromagnetic waves. In France, microwave ownership jumped from 20% in 1989 to over 50% by 1995. But the food doesn't taste great. People mostly use it to reheat leftovers. Part 2, Where our food comes from. We get food from farming and raising animals. Let's start with livestock. Raising animals began with domestication. That was a big change from hunting. Take French snails, once a peasant dish, but Paris restaurants made it famous. Archaeologists find snail shells in ancient sites. Snails and shellfish were probably the first animals we farmed. Because they're small, easy to feed, harmless, and breed quickly, most people think we went from gathering to hunting to herding. But the author says these methods overlapped. For a long time, people both hunted and kept animals, like with North American bison or reindeer in Scandinavia. Why bother keeping animals in pens instead of just hunting? Because farming gives a steady food supply. And you can pick the best meat, like tender veal from calves that haven't been weaned. In Argentina, they eat ternera, baby beef. In Wyoming, ranchers stew young calf innards. Even the Chinese hot pot chain Little Sheep uses young lamb. You can't get that from hunting. A third benefit, milk and dairy. But not everyone digests milk well, only people from Europe, North America, the Middle East, and Central Asia. Chinese cuisine uses very little dairy. When Japan first met Westerners, they said they smelled like sour milk. Domestication also happened in the ocean. The 20th century saw the biggest hunt ever. Fishing catches increased 40-fold from the previous century. We pulled 3 billion tons of fish from the sea, and many fisheries collapsed. Canada closed its cod fishery in 1996. Atlantic cod is down to 10% of historical levels. California sardines and North Sea herring are rare. Japan's sardine fishery boomed in the 1930s, but by 1994 they were nearly extinct. So now we farm fish too. In 1980, aquaculture gave us 5 million tons of food. By the 2000s, 25 million tons. In the wild, only 1 in a million eggs survives. With artificial fertilization, 80 hatch and 60% grow. Farmed fish grow bigger and faster. Salmon farms produce 15 times more meat per hectare than beef cattle. Now let's talk about farming crops. People used to gather wild plants. Over time, they learned to plant them. The author asks, what started the agricultural revolution? His answer, humans lived alongside plants for a long time, slowly learning about them. The most important plants are grasses. Their seeds contain oil, starch, and protein. 6 crops changed civilization: wheat, maize, corn, rice, millet, barley, and rye. These are our staples, the food that lets millions live. Some cultures even worship them. Christians use bread in communion. Native Americans grow corn near temples. Let's rank them from least to most important. Rye grows well in cold, poor soil. From 1000 BC, it fed northern Europe. Rye bread is dark, sticky, and slightly bitter. Once poor people's food, but now health-conscious middle-class people like it. Barley is even tougher. It grows in Tibet, where people roast and grind it into tsampa. Evidence shows Syrians gathered wild barley 13,000 years ago. It doesn't make good bread, so they ate it in soups. Ancient Greeks ate barley. Old Athenian coins even show barley grains. Millet loves hot, dry weather. It's oily and has more protein than wheat. It's not big in the West, but it fed the Yellow River civilization in China. The Book of Songs, over 2,500 years old, mentions planting millet. In the Shang dynasty, millet fed some of the world's densest populations. Later, soybeans and wheat came, but rice never did well in the north. Rice now provides 20% of calories and 13% of protein for 2 billion people. Before modern wheat improvements, rice was the most efficient crop. 1 hectare fed 5.6 people. While wheat fed 3.7 and corn fed 5.1. East and South Asia, receding regions, have always been the most populated and creative. Europe, a wheat region, was backward until 500 years ago. Archaeologists find rice farming in the Yangtze Valley 8,000 years ago. By 5,000 years ago, northern China grew dryland rice. As Chinese civilization expanded, rice became a symbol of wealth and the main food. In the Middle Ages, Eurasia had this pattern: rice in the east, wheat in the west, barley in the middle, millet and rye in tough areas. The Americas had maize, corn. Corn isn't very nutritious, so Native Americans learned to eat it with beans and squash for balance. Finally, wheat, the most important. It grows on over 600 million acres worldwide, adapts to many climates, and keeps improving. 2 big products come from wheat: beer and bread. Some say we started farming just to brew beer, a drink that gets you high, but bread may be even more key. Wheat has more gluten than other grasses. That makes dough stretchy, traps gases from fermentation, and gives fluffy bread. Baking good bread needs skill. Bakers became specialists early on. There's no millet porridge master or popcorn master. Bread is the most technically demanding staple. Noodle lovers might disagree. So that's the top 6: wheat, corn, rice, millet, barley, rye. But they weren't enough. We also needed root vegetables. The first farming was probably taro, easy to digest, but doesn't store well. So yams, sweet potatoes, and potatoes took over. The oldest potato farming was in Peru 7,000 years ago. Potatoes grow at high altitudes and are so nutritious that you can live on them alone. When Europeans reached America, they brought potatoes back. Europe's climate suited potatoes better than corn, and potatoes became a staple. When the crop failed, famine struck like the Irish potato famine of 1845. Interesting fact, whenever Europe had wars, potato farming spread. It was cheap food for poor people. Sweet potatoes Khalid Fanshu in Chinese. The word fan means foreign, arrived in China around 1560, along with corn. If these crops had spread earlier in the Ming dynasty, China might have avoided some famines and rebellions. Today, China eats more corn than millet, but both remain side dishes. Rice is still king. And one more, peanuts, originally from Brazil, spread worldwide but stayed marginal except in China, where they're loved and poetically called falling flowers give birth. Luo Hua Sheng, Part 3, How Tastes Are Formed. This book isn't just about farming, it's about food culture. Today we can eat global cuisines, but we still crave our hometown flavors, especially breakfast. French and British tastes clash. Chinese food lovers think theirs is the best. Food is like language or religion, it's deeply cultural and conservative. Our taste buds remember the spices and ingredients we grew up with and often reject unfamiliar ones, but two forces break down these walls: war and colonization. For example, Egypt has a snack called kushri, rice, lentils, onions, spices very similar to Indian khichdi. Likely British troops brought it from India to Egypt. In reverse, the British left behind roast chicken with bread and roast beef with Yorkshire pudding in Pakistan. And when Muslims ruled Spain, they switched cooking from lard to olive oil, and that stuck. Tastes also migrate and blend. Corn, sugar, sweet potatoes, they all traveled clear routes. One hidden mix is Tex-Mex food in the US. Texas was taken from Mexico, but Mexico fought back with food: chilies, corn, black beans. The state dish of Texas is chili con carne, meat, beans, chilies, cumin probably came from Spanish colonists. Look at Asia. Filipino dishes often have rice seasoned with banana leaves, that's Chinese influence. But also use bread and coconut, that's Malay. They have roast suckling pig and seafood. Rice, clearly Spanish. They even use Spanish words in the kitchen and love. Caramel, a Spanish dessert. So Filipino food tells the story of Chinese migration and Spanish colonization. In Southeast Asia, rice gets local flavors. In Iran, rice was a royal food. They imported fine Indian rice, soaked it for 2 hours, boiled until chewy, then steamed with fat, lamb, cherries, saffron. Very elaborate. Because rice doesn't grow well there, so eating it was a sign of power. Now Europe. Dutch food is famously bland, but they have two national dishes. One is rijstafel, a rice meal from their colony Indonesia, white rice with a dozen side dishes like spicy stir-fried sauce, beef stew with ginger and lemongrass, squid, tofu, all served in brass dishes with warmers. The other is spot mashed potatoes, carrots and onions boiled together, usually with sausage or beef. It comes from the siege of Leiden in 1574, when people boiled whatever root vegetables they could find. It's like the Chinese dish Dojujia, savior of the emperor, a humble meal born from hardship. So these two Dutch dishes honor both their colonial past and their fight for freedom. Food with a heart. Final thought: from fire to microwaves, from hunting to fish farms, from local roots to global blends, every bite we take tells a story of survival, creativity, and connection. That's the taste of civilization.